trouble coming? Are we going down? Mother, daughter, and your brother too. Get your mind straight when it's up to you. Hey, you gotta see the storm a-coming. Hey, you gotta feel it coming through. Hey, you gotta see the storm a-coming. Whoa, it's coming after you.
Okay, this is Greg Seagroves, Reflections of an Uncommon Common Man. We've got a panel here today. I've asked them all to be here to discuss what's been going on this last 10 days or so. Today's date is June the 8th, 2020. And anyway, I've asked Tammy Sharp to be with us. She's on the school board, Zone 1, Rutherford County School Board. And also, I have Pat Dowdy, who was a guest with us this past week. I asked him to come back today. You're running for Zone 2, right?
I am, yes.
Okay. Rutherford County Board of Education. And also, we've got my co-host, Jimmy Catrone, and Connor McDaniel, my producer over here.
How's it going?
Okay. You know, I've been angry for a long time, well, a few days now, and watching the news. You know, as it always happens, you know, it's like somebody walks into a school, shoots it up. We're all horrified. You know, whether you believe in gun control, you don't believe in gun control, we're all on the same page. We want it to stop, okay? But there's always got to be that Democratic politician that comes in there, and first thing they start hollering is gun control. And then that gets everybody divided, because then it makes us Second Amendment guys defend our position. And then we get worried about them coming and taking our guns away. And then we forget about what the whole issue to begin with was over. Same way with George Floyd. I want to just take a poll, all you guys sitting here. When you saw that cop kill that guy, George Floyd, up in Minneapolis, were y'all as enraged about it as I was?
I was horrified.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
horrified.
Okay. Would you say the same thing?
I'm going to say the same. And as a police officer, you know, definitely horrified, and, you know, did an injustice to, you know, all cops.
Makes you all look bad.
It does.
You know, it's just like when an idiot goes in, I don't care what color they are, I don't care what kind of agenda they have, or whatever, but when they go in and start shooting a place up, that makes the rest of us law-abiding citizens look terrible, you know? And so now, here we are, 10 days or so. What day did that happen? It was that in May or June?
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day,
Yeah.
Okay. Here we are, these many days later, and it's not about George Floyd anymore. You know, the nation is divided. You know, we were all on the same page for a brief sliver of a moment, but now we're not. Now it's all about systemic racism, and we're being preached to every day by corporations, by TV and the mass media, and all these left-wing groups and protesters about how awful of a country we are. Let me ask you something. Do y'all believe that racism? Now I know what you're going to say, but I'm just asking a rhetorical question here. Y'all believe racism still exists in America?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you think it's systemic?
I don't believe so. I think it's the individual. And I think racism is on many sides. It's not just white people that are racist against blacks. Right. There's a lot of blacks that are racist against whites, any other race. You have them in in every culture, every race. It exists.
You know, I know there's racists. I mean, you know, I run into them quite frequently out here. I
Likewise.
mean, when I'm out walking around, or you know, but I personally, you know, I'm the oldest one here. You know, unfortunately, but
I'm not sure about much.
You'll
well,
always be
he's running a
We're
close.
just
you'll
gonna
always
leave it
be
there.
older than me. Don't forget that.
He's running a close second, but I can probably say that I remember things that maybe he doesn't, and he's from a different part of the country than I am. He's from New York, Long Island. I was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm 70 years old, so I lived the tail end of Jim Crow segregation. I didn't go to school with a black child until I was 15 years old. Now I was around black people all my life, but you know, I went to segregated school. But here, let me describe what systemic racism looks like. Systemic racism is when you turn your TV on and the commercials are all white actors. Systemic racism is when you turn on a sitcom at night or a western or whatever and you see nothing but white actors. And then if you see a black actor, it's always the stereotypical black person. You know, I remember growing up and watching somebody,
Good
you know,
times.
something like Bob Hope Road Shows or something like that, and there was always a character in there called Lightning. I think his name was Lightning. You know, he just shuffled along and talked real slow and stupid and everything, or Amos and Andy. Of course, I liked Amos and Andy, to be honest with you, but it had a lot of good humor, but it was stereotypical portrayal of black people. You didn't see them portrayed as in a professional way, like lawyers and doctors and all that. When you know, and so also when I watched the space launch, you know, when they trotted out the 7 Mercury astronauts, they were all lily white. You know, when I watched the space launch, NASA's panel sitting in there, all the guys were white. Now we find out now by the movie that there were some brilliant black people working behind the scenes, but we didn't see them. Okay. You know, you look at the president of the United States, most of his staff, all of his staff was white. I think Eisenhower had one, you know, excuse the term, token black, you know, but I don't remember, I didn't even know he had one until later years, you know. The FBI was all white. You know, police departments, they were all white. If they did have black officers like Nashville, they were generally patrolled black neighborhoods. You know, if you looked at, you know, I saw the black men in Nashville, they were gardeners, when women were maids. There was a middle class of black people, like teachers, lawyers, doctors, but I never saw them. You know, they were there. Nobody really cared a whole lot about what went on in a black community. Okay, so you kind of get the picture of what I'm talking about. That's systemic racism. Okay, now I look at take Baltimore for example. But at the time of Freddie Gray's death, back in 2015, 45% of the city of Baltimore, population-wise, was black. The majority of the city council was black. It was 100% Democrat. I'm talking about the city government. Police chief and the second in charge was black. Majority of command staff was black. Mayor was black. The AG was black. And Baltimore is representative of many cities in the United States. You can probably say that about, you know, much of the city government of Chicago. The mayor of Chicago right now is black. The attorney general of Minnesota, where this happened, he's a radical Muslim and black. You know, you had the mayor is white, but he's a left-wing Democrat. The governor is white, but he's a left-wing Democrat. that I'm talking about in Minnesota. Police chief is black in Minneapolis. So where do they get off saying systemic racism? Okay, and if you can make an argument that we have systemic racism, but it's not. It's through the Democratic Party. You know, because look what they're doing to their constituents. You know, they're keeping them in inner city slums. They're holding them down. They're keeping them poor for the most part. Blacks are killing each other like crazy. The homes have been destroyed by government. The homes have been destroyed by drugs. It's the same old policies have been going on for years. Take the city of Nashville, for example. The city of Nashville hadn't had a Republican mayor since the late 1800s. You know, this is typical of so many big, cities in America. But anyway, do you think that what's going on in the country today, do you think it's really just nothing more than, well, I see two things going on here, but do you think it's primarily aimed at getting rid of Donald Trump? Do y'all agree with that?
It is, but it's combinations of different things too. I think people maybe, and I can't speak for the black community, but maybe they're looking. You're touching on this thing about the cities and with black administrators and black politicians running it, and who is pulling their strings and what's actually going on behind the scenes. That whole thing, like you and I have talked about with Lyndon Johnson and going back to when welfare was established in the 60s, that poison pill, whether he did it on purpose or not, I don't know if we'll ever really know, but putting welfare in place and running that thing became the poison for the black community and the absentee father and all that stuff. But I think a lot of the progress, the systemic things you mentioned, a lot of them have gone away. They've made tremendous progress in all areas of business and politics and sports and everything. But I think you could look at those communities where there's still the poverty and the welfare, and on the surface, it's easy to. I think it's easy to blame the white community for that mess, and that's still there, or it didn't. It's not. It wasn't. It became worse when welfare initiated in the 60s, and I think they look at that as still being the issue. And it is an issue when you have, because it rolls into everything else. It rolls into an absentee father and rolls into crime and drugs and everything. It just keeps on going from there. So I think I wouldn't call it systemic, but that's what developed from the welfare system, I think, from the 60s, and it's chronic. That whole thing branches out, and it's like poison for everything else.
Okay, let me ask you this question. I'm going to read this and see if y'all can tell me who said it. But if we are honest with ourselves, we'll admit that what too many fathers also is missing from too many lives and too many homes. They have abandoned their responsibilities, acting like boys instead of men. And the foundations of our families are weaker because of it. You and I know how true this is in the African American community. We know that more than half of all black children live in single-parent households, a number that has doubled since we were children. We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime, 9 times more likely to drop out of schools, and 20 more times likely to end up in prison. They are more likely to have behavioral problems or run away from home, become teenage parents themselves, and the foundation of our community are weaker because of it. Who y'all think said that?
I know who said it. It was Obama, wasn't
It
it?
was Barack Obama.
I was going to say Barack Obama. Yeah.
And that's one of the few times that man in 8 years ever told the truth.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's true.
He told the gospel truth right there. Okay, right in 1965, 25% of black children were born in a nuclear family. Okay, Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a liberal Democrat politician, he wrote a paper warning, America, that welfare was destroying the black family, and that and he was worried because 25%. Okay, now it's up to 75% of homes are born or do not have a father present. Now, guess who's up to 25%? White families are up to 25%. Mm-hmm. Back in the 50s, early 60s, going beyond, even as 20s, 30s, you were more likely to have a father in a black home than in a white home, statistically. Even under slavery, you had more black fathers in homes than you do now, So that's a big part of it, It can't be blamed for all of it. But, look at Obama. Here was a guy, and I'll be honest with you, I knew who Obama was before he ever got elected. I studied up on him. I read Dreams from My Father and all that, all that garbage. And, if you want to know about these people, read what they write, Adolf Hitler wrote Mein Kampf. He told us what he was going to do. He told us how he believed. I'm not comparing Obama to Adolf Hitler, but I'm just saying, whether you're Hillary Clinton or whoever you are, read what they put, their own words will condemn them, okay? And here was a guy, when he got elected, I applauded. I was against him. I voted against him. I didn't want him in there because I knew what he was going to do. But here was the first black president of the United States crossed that color line, and he had the opportunity to unite this country, more than any other person in our lifetime, okay? And instead, he divided us.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when Trayvon Martin died. No, well, let's start back. You remember the black professor that that was trying to break into his house because he locked himself out, and he said the police acted stupidly,
Yeah.
before even investigating to see what happened. Then Trayvon Martin deal, okay? Now, George, what was his last name? George Zimmerman.
Zimmerman, yeah.
Okay, first of all, they tried to make a white dude out of him.
Right.
He was as brown as the police officer I saw standing by him at his arraignment, But anyway, he was supposedly a white Hispanic. But remember when Trayvon Martin, where all that first happened, they put up on the screen this picture of a 10-year-old boy, innocent, just buying his Skittles, walking through, and Zimmerman, ambushes him. Well, we find out that, regardless of what you think of Zimmerman, he was doing what any of us would do. He was protecting his life. Okay, and the courts proved him to be innocent. Okay. Then here comes Michael Brown, okay? Oh, well, with Trayvon Martin, I love the phrase that Obama said, if I had a child, it would look like him.
If I had a son, it'd look like him.
Yeah, if I had a son, it would look like him.
Right.
And then we come to Michael Brown, this 300-pound gentle giant, that had just robbed a store.
Right.
And this officer, in a fight for his life in his patrol car, because Brown's trying to take his gun.
Away.
He shoots. The gun discharges in the car, and supposedly, the media's all saying, "Don't shoot. Raise my hand. Don't shoot." And Brown bull rushes him, and he kills him. And even the black witnesses backed up, the cop's story. The cop's whole life is ruined. He can't be a police officer anymore because he's hiding for his life. His wife, who he just married, was a police officer. She can't be a police officer anymore. They burned Ferguson, Missouri down while the guard stands there and watches it burn down. Mm-hmm. Okay. Governor wouldn't let them go in and protect the stuff. And guess what? Obama sends 3 representatives to Michael Brown's, funeral. It just goes on and on and on. And here, just right before when George Bush was finishing up, they did a poll. It was something like 75% of all Americans, white or black, thought we were headed in the right direction on race. By the time he got through, it was down to 48%. You know, and you know that's where Antifa came along, Black Lives Matter, all this stuff. You know, cops are being shot down in the street, and then they want to
Targeted.
blame Trump for hatred.
Right.
You know, but they have no
the
evidence.
hatred started when Obama took office.
What's that?
I said the hatred started
absolutely.
when Obama took office.
Absolutely. It can be documented, And
Absolutely.
that's the purpose of doing this podcast, is that I want to try to get the truth out there. There's an old story about I don't know if it's true or not, but a guy walking along the seashore and he sees a guy, I guess it's after a storm, and all these starfish are, washed up on the shore. And this guy's picking these starfish up and throwing it out in the sea. And he walks up to the dude and says, "Hey, dude, you're never going to be able to get all these starfish back in the ocean." He said, "Yeah, but for the ones I throw back, it means a whole lot for them,
Right.
And so even if I can reach, a few people, I want to, I feel like we got to fight. Like we said earlier, we got a country to save, and
Right.
I think more and more people, and what you guys are doing, like, you're on the school board, you want to run for the school. That's where the battle has to be won. You're fighting in the trenches right there, to get our schools turned back around. And
I think that's the hard thing because my job is 24/7.
right,
I get phone calls in the middle of the night. I got a phone call on the way to Memphis over the weekend that when we moved to Portable from Rock Springs,
right,
we didn't have the permits from Laverne. Well, Laverne doesn't have the law on the books yet, but Murfreesboro did. They had the state permit. So I spent 2 hours of my time going back and forth between our super and our construction worker, head of construction, sorry, and the mayor of Laverne. There's so many things. I mean, even though people say it's not a full-time job, it is a full-time job. We've been out of school all this time for the corona. I can tell you that they've dumped stuff at our school. They've torn up our schools. Since nobody's there, they've just, there's been nobody there to watch them.
right,
But at the same time, he and I both are working in the community. I mean, I work with the Hispanic community. I have a large contingent of Middle Easterners and
Right.
Hispanics at several of my schools, and Coptic Christians. I mean, we represent all of them, and we take care of all of them. When
Right.
we go, and when Pat goes into schools, he doesn't look to see what their race is, and
Right.
that's the sad thing about all of this, because I think at the ground level,
right,
there's so much good that's going on, but when you see the TV programs and you see things at the commercials and everything, it just kind of erases everything that
Right.
goes on. But even when I went to Memphis this weekend, and I kind of went on a media hiatus,
right,
because it'll give you a nervous breakdown
Right.
if you listen to it all, because I know the people in my community, I know they love each
Right.
other. And when we've got a Facebook page and they say so and so needs this or somebody needs help with this, there's 20 or 30 people that go to help them. And we have 50,000 students in Rutherford County, and they're diverse.
right,
And finally, on the school board, we have 3 females. I think the first time was 1988. I saw on the plaque at Laverne High School when that school was built, because whoever signs off on it, they get their name on the
Right.
plaque. And even Miss Johnson is Hispanic. So we do I'd like to see more diversity,
Right.
but we're making strides in that. And I'll tell you, when Director Spurlock named Dr. Hatchett, Theowana Hatchett, from Smyrna Middle to the principal at Laverne High School, I cried. I could cry about it right now, because she is so wonderful with her students, and it's such a game changer
right,
for Laverne. Laverne, in my opinion, even before I was on the school board, Laverne needed a change at the high school. And just with any job, there are people that kind of fit,
Right.
and there are people that don't fit. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person. That just means it's a fit. When I was in banking, if there the same thing with the banking
Right.
center, we moved people around quite a bit to get the results that we wanted.
Right.
And she, born and raised in Rutherford County, she's an alumni from Laverne High School, and regardless what's going on nationally, I'm telling y'all, there's going to be some things that are happening in Rutherford County coming up in the next school year. Y'all just need to sit back and watch because it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be phenomenal.
Positive.
Absolutely
phenomenal.
positive.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Okay.
positive.
I want to get a little bit in law enforcement. That's one reason I wanted you to be here. I heard today on a talk show, they were talking about a black lady who was claimed to be wealthy, not wealthy, but middle class, and drove a, I don't know, fancy car, and she was never bothered by the hassle by the police, but she knows a person, a male, black male, that drives a fancy car, and when he's driving that fancy car in a white neighborhood, he's constantly stopped by the police. You know, when you were a police officer, you know, and there was a police officer that called in and said, you know what, you know, we were trained that if you don't ever stop a car unless you got a reason to stop them, you know, if there's a light out.
Reasonable suspicion.
Yeah.
Reasonable suspicion.
So in essence, you can't really stop a car if you don't have a reason. Right?
It's illegal.
Right.
I can lose my job.
Right.
Depending on what the situation is, I mean, they could have me in federal court.
Right.
And they constantly just beat that in your head when you're going through police academy.
Right.
Listen to what we're teaching you.
Right.
Practice what we're teaching you. If you don't, you could very well lose everything you have, your house, your car,
Right.
your bank account, everything.
Right.
So we're extremely careful. We don't go around just pulling over cars just to pull them over.
Right.
There's a reason. Tail light, ran a
Right.
stop sign, rolled through it, whatever.
Right.
Now, if there's a car that looks suspicious to us,
Right.
granted, I will tell you, there are times that we'll follow it until they mess up
Right. Right.
because we want to talk to the people that are in it.
Right.
And generally, if that's happening, it's because we already have had contact with those people in the past.
Right.
We know they're into either drug dealing or
Right.
we know that they've been arrested before for, say, burglarizing homes
Right.
or so forth. So we're not just looking for that black male driving in a car to pull them over.
So you don't dance unless you hear music. Yeah.
What's that?
You don't dance
Oh,
unless you hear music.
Right.
That's why.
One way to put it.
Now, I was thinking when that lady said that, I would like to put the times I've been stereotyped as a mall security officer and called racist just doing my job. You know, I get called that all the time. You know, Jimmy.
That's the shutdown word.
Yeah, it's to shut you up.
Yeah,
you know, and
That's exactly what it is.
get suspicion away from
That's exactly
them.
what it is.
Yeah, and
Not to interrupt you, but I'm going to tell you this. Back in the day, I moved to Nashville in 1991.
yeah,
A brother and I, we moved here to pursue a country music
right.
career. That you see what happened to that. But
I'm the only one that moved here that did pursue music.
well, there you go.
Didn't have any plans to.
But I will tell you, when I moved here, I could reach around the back and grab my hair.
Mhm.
So I was this long hair hippie looking dude,
Right.
had a beard. I was kind of rough looking, I
Right,
guess,
right.
to some.
Right.
I drove. I picked up it was pretty inexpensive. I picked up a lowered pickup truck,
Mm-hmm.
and back in California in the 80s, that was a big thing. And Tennessee is about 10, 15 years behind.
Right.
It started when they were shutting them down there, back there. But I had a lowered pickup truck, and I was driving between my home and another location. It was about 45 minutes away, and my car stood out. I'm white.
Mm-hmm.
I got pulled over by a white California Highway Patrol officer,
Mm-hmm.
and he walked up to the vehicle, looks at me, looks at my brother. Suspicion. I maybe we look suspicious.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
You know, I think he thought there was drugs in the car.
Right.
The back of my truck was filled with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He made us get out of the vehicle, asked if it was okay to search, and I'm thinking, I don't have anything in my car, but yeah, go ahead, man. You knock yourself out. That dude took everything out of my car, searching for something. We had nothing. I mean, I wasn't into drugs, but profiling has existed.
All right.
You know?
Absolutely.
Doesn't matter what color you are.
Right.
Now, it is quote unquote illegal for a cop to profile. Okay. But it's not illegal for us if we have a description of a subject or a suspect,
Right.
and they happen to be a black suspect that's driving a black Altima.
Right.
I see a black Altima pass.
Right.
There's a black man driving it. I have reasonable suspicion at this point. It's late at night, whatever. I'm going to pull him over. But it's not just a one race thing. We're not after and we have plenty of black cops out there. We have plenty of Hispanic and Asian cops. We all do the same job.
Sure.
And they're not targeting blacks. So I've never heard, why'd you pull me over because I'm black?
Right.
I've never heard a black cop say that.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
So apparently it's not being said to them, but.
Well, when I was about 14, 15 years old, I worked at, actually I was a little older, about 16. I worked at H.G. Hill down at 6th and Shelby in Nashville, and I didn't have a car, so I had to walk home. I had to walk about 3 miles to the house, and I walked through a kind of bad area. You're familiar with Nashville, 6th and Shelby.
Oh, yeah.
But back then it was a project white area. It wasn't black,
Right.
And but anyway, I got stopped and frisked twice, because
you were white.
I guess.
Sorry,
but no, it was just there had been this is what the cops said. They said there had been a burglary or a robbery or something. Right. And I kind of fit the description, and they wanted to check me out. And, of course, they checked me, and everything turned out all right, and they go on their way,
Now, did you become vocal about that?
No.
Was it offensive?
No, not to me.
And seeing that's my point a lot of times.
Yeah.
If you're guilty of something and you're stopped, of course
Right.
you're gonna raise a stink.
Sure.
Especially if they don't find out what you're
Right.
what you're guilty of. But even if they do, it's like, I'm doing my job.
Right.
You're doing wrong.
Right.
Pay the consequence.
Well, and it all goes down to is that I don't care you're white, black. More whites are killed in this country
Yes, they are.
than black people, and
By cops.
By cops.
Yes.
And there's more unarmed white people killed than unarmed blacks. Okay.
Yes, there are.
Now, here's the thing. This is what I think so-called black leaders like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and whoever ought to be pushing is through these high schools and everything.
Yep.
How to comply with a police officer,
Absolutely.
Because if you comply, you will not die,
That's generally the rule.
Yeah. I mean, when I get pulled over a cop, I put my hands like, what do they call that?
10 and 2.
10 and
10
2.
and 2.
Yep.
But I turn the overhead light on. I try to, because I even though I've never been in your position, I've trained to pull over a car and all that. And even in training, it kind of makes you nervous,
Sure.
Because you're walking up and you can't see in the car.
Yeah, we have no idea what we're walking up to.
Right.
It makes us feel better when
Sure.
I can walk up at night to a window and the light's on.
Right.
I see his hands. Some people even go as far as taking their key out and laying it up on the dash. Man, I'm totally
You've
relaxed.
already won half the battle right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, not saying that person couldn't reach down, grab a gun, and shoot me, but I go from having just completely stressed,
Right.
because I don't know what I'm walking up to,
Right.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they're going to be compliant.
Right.
Right. And on the flip side, and I'm going to tell you this, Greg, because you said that. I've two sons that are about to drive. One of
Right.
them's getting ready to go take his driver's license test
Right.
next week. The other one should have already been driving, but he's a little lazy.
Right.
But I cannot tell you how many times I preach to them. If you get stopped, it's yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. Just be polite.
Right.
Apologize if you have to.
Right.
Keep your hands where they can see you.
Right.
Don't make any stupid moves, and
Right.
don't be a smart mouth.
Right.
I said, the smart mouth is going to get you a ticket.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you, 95% of the time, if
Yeah.
I'm pulling somebody over, my intent
Yeah.
is just to explain to them what they did wrong.
Yeah.
Make sure that everything's in compliance with their
Right.
driver's license, their registration, their
Right,
insurance. And if it is, I'll give them a verbal warning,
Yeah.
or I may even take the time. If it was bad enough,
Right.
I'll go write a written warning.
Right. Right.
But I cannot tell you how many times when I get up to the car
Right.
and somebody starts running that mouth,
Right.
and
Yeah, it makes you want to give them more, you know.
I do.
Yeah.
I'll give them everything they deserve at that
Right.
point in time. It's like, dude, and I honestly, I cannot count the times that I've walked up and they start berating me just because I'm a cop, or
Right,
why,
right.
why the F did you pull me
Right,
over?
right,
and
right.
da-da-da. They're
Right.
yelling at me. I say, wait. I'm not the one that just ran the
Right.
stoplight back there. I'm not the
Right.
one that was going 70 and a 40.
Sure.
I had every intention of giving you a warning, but you're
Right.
talking yourself into a ticket. And,
Right.
I'm sorry, officer. Can we start over?
Yeah.
And I kid you not, that line has been used so many times. It's like, sure, let's start over. Hi, sir. I apologize. I didn't mean to speed, or whatever.
Right.
that is.
Yeah.
But I even teach my kids that.
Right.
And all these black leaders in the community, if they would, like you said, spend
Right.
their time
Right.
educating their community
Right.
on how to treat the police. Because, I
Right.
mean, my gosh, I'm a human being too,
Right.
Greg. I mean,
Right. Sure.
I'm not wearing a uniform right now.
Yeah.
There's no gun, no badge. I'm just a person.
Right.
And somebody else sees me on the street. I'm a human being. I have
Right.
a family at home. I have a home.
Right.
Treat me with respect. You want respect from me, treat me with respect.
But even if you find them with drugs, even if you find them with something they ain't supposed to have or whatever, if they comply with you and be honest, you may have to charge them for what you have to charge them with under the law.
And
but you're not
sometimes
going to, well, sometimes
It's
not.
discretion.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, it puts you in a frame of mind where you want
Lesser.
to work with these people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you. I'm that type of cop. I mean, I'm not. I can be hard when I need to be hard.
Right.
But I'm the type that I'm gonna treat you with dignity and respect.
Right.
Until it's time not to.
Right.
And I cannot tell you. I'm the guy that I could pretty much hand the cuffs to the guy I'm gonna arrest.
Right.
And they would gladly put them on.
Right. All
And
right.
get in my car without a fight.
Right.
But even the guys that I've had to fight because they wanted to fight.
Yeah.
Once I get cuffs on them, get them in a car, and we start talking, like, I guess they start feeling bad. They've apologized on
Yeah.
the way to jail now.
Yeah.
And I'll have a conversation. I cannot tell you how many people
Yeah.
I've talked about God to
Yeah.
on the way to jail.
jail.
And we get to the jail and they're apologizing to me because
Yeah.
I'm not a jerk.
Yeah,
Some
sure.
cops are, and I'm gonna
Just
I'm
give
gonna
you
throw that
give you a chance.
Those handcuffs bring out the God in people, don't they?
God
Nah.
told me you were gonna put these on.
Yeah.
Now I had a guy one day over in the food court when we used to have the food court, and he, I walked up to him and he said something smart to me, and I said, excuse me, sir, or he says, hey, no, I know what he said. He said, hey, dude, he said something smart, and I said, I'm not a dude, He said, what are you, a girl? And of course he had what'd you say? So he had his little girlfriend there with him. He was showing off in front of her, And so, I didn't play with him. I said, look, you need to leave the mall right now. And he smarting off and all the way out the door, of course, once he got away from his girlfriend and we got outside, he stops. He says, sir, I want to apologize for what I said. He said, like you said, he said, can we start over? He said, He said, because I was telling him, I said, you're this close to me calling MPD, you know.
Right.
And he said, I want to apologize. I was a jerk in there, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, let's do this. I said, you leave for today and you come back tomorrow, everything will be fine. We'll start all over. But I wasn't going to let him get away totally
Right.
clean, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I've kind of had my security version of that. But I want to get to a few other things. You know, I was a little. I'm not sure right now. Maybe later I'll change my mind. But I've been a little disappointed in Trump's leadership during all this. One thing, it appears to me now, after I look at it, that this mayor in Washington, D.C. was trying to kill Donald Trump, okay? She had control of the police and allowed them to have their way.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand 60 Secret Service people were injured
Yep.
fighting off this crowd,
Right.
okay? Some of them could have been killed, okay? Now, if they'd got in there, they would have had hell to pay, you know, because they're not going to
Sounds
let.
like a lot of restraint was used that night.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they weren't going to let, and you know, to a point, Antifa and all these people, they're trying to provoke a reaction. You know, they want to see people get killed and all that. You know, but it should have never got to that. That Washington mayor, and this is Trump. She's not in charge of Washington, D.C. when it comes down to it. Trump is, okay? And I don't understand why he allowed that to happen, okay? And she's even kicking National Guard out of hotels and stuff in Washington because saying that they can't afford it in the budget and all that. Well, it's because she doesn't want them protecting Donald Trump.
Right.
Okay? But that shows, let that sink in a minute. You got a mayor of Washington that's willing to allow Trump life to be endangered and to be the indignity of what happened that night, okay? And I think that just and I'm thinking, you know, there's a lot of debate over this, and Trump's been criticized, been warned not to use it and all that, but there's such thing as the Insurrection Act of 1807, okay?
Right.
And basically what Trump has to do before invoking the powers under the act, he has to put everyone on notice. The mob's disperse, or I'm sending troops in. Now, there's three things that he can do. It says before, let's see, when requested by...
Greg, say it again, that act, so everybody can
It's
hear
the
it.
Insurrection Act of 1807.
Thank you.
Okay? Been used many, many times by American
I
presidents.
just wanted to get out there. I want people to hear it.
Yeah. Okay, it says when there's three things, reasons he can send them in. When requested by a state legislature or governor, the legislature cannot be convened to address an insurrection against that state. To address an insurrection in any state which makes it impracticable to enforce the law, or to address an insurrection, domestic violence, unlawful combination, or conspiracy. And fourth, I think this is what justifies him more than anything to send in the troops. In any state which results in the deprivation of constitutionally secured rights, and where the state is unable, fails, or refuses to protect said rights. Now, in these blue states, we know what they're doing. They're sitting back and letting this stuff happen to make Trump look bad.
Yes, they are.
Okay? So he had every right to send in the troops. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, I've been around long enough. I know that Americans will rally around a forceful president.
Right.
And be honest, you know, I remember the Detroit riots of 1967. Now, granted, in 1967, black people had a big beef with the way they were being treated.
Right.
You know, but even under those circumstances, you can't allow your cities to be burnt down.
Right.
Okay. So on the Sunday night that the riots started, okay, George Romney, who was the governor of Michigan at that time, who was the father of Mitt Romney, called in 300 Michigan State troopers to deal with the problem, okay? They couldn't handle it. Assisting the local police. Then the National Guard was called in later that night. They couldn't handle it, so we had chaos for all day on Monday. Okay, people were killed. A bunch of people were killed. So Johnson, the 101st Airborne, was coming back from Vietnam. Had tanks, armored personnel carriers, the whole bit. He enacts the Insurrection Act, brought them in, diverted them back to Detroit. By Wednesday night, it was over with. And here's the thing: I saw people. People just like you and I that had put their whole life savings in the business, and there was black people, white people, Asian people being burnt out and being destroyed and sitting there and helplessly watching all this stuff happen. And in some of these blue states like California and New Jersey, where they've disarmed them, they couldn't even defend these places, Right. And I'm really ticked off at Trump over this. Okay, now I love Trump. Don't get me wrong. Like we were talking before. You weren't a Trump supporter. You weren't
Not
a
at
Trump
all.
supporter. I wasn't a Trump supporter. He was way down on my list. I've always liked Trump. I thought he was funny. I used to laugh my head off in debates. But I voted for him thinking, okay, I have no other alternative. Okay.
Right.
Now I've been pleasantly surprised
Oh,
by
me too.
Donald Trump. Okay. Even now I'll walk over hot coals smeared with Nancy Pelosi's
Broken
feces
glass, I'm going.
to get to the polls. In November. Okay.
Right.
But I don't know. What do y'all think? Do y'all think he did the right thing or dropped the ball?
Let me go first.
All right.
I'll stick up for my boy a little bit.
right.
So I think he's done a phenomenal job. I think you're only as good as the people you're surrounded
Right.
with,
True.
and he is. It's a gradual thing, and sometimes it's subtle and sometimes it's not. But he's cleaning house. He's getting rid of that dead, and there's more dead wood than we even know, and he even knows that's in there. That he has to get rid of. That Insurrection Act. When was it used last?
67?
When was it?
It was used.
When was it enacted?
It was probably used by George H.W. Bush in the Watson ride of 1992. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
I don't really know. I know that I think Roosevelt used it 4 or 5 times. I think Johnson, I think, used it. It's been used quite a bit. It's not Kennedy used it. Kennedy used it when he had several riots to deal with during his term and everything.
I just don't know, in all honesty, if Trump himself would be aware of that act. I would think.
He's got to be with all.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, he's been busy.
Well,
He's been busy. He's had a lot thrown at him, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but he's had a lot thrown at him.
No, I'll tell you what. If
and he's done a great job. I agree with you, and I agree with the idea. But I think it should come from staff and not necessarily from him. And maybe somebody dropped the ball and they should have done it. But that's what I'm thinking. But go ahead.
No, I'll tell you what. I look at Trump right now as one of our greater presidents.
Me too.
Okay. Absolutely. If he wins the re-election with what this poor guy,
you mean when he wins?
Well, when he wins re-election in November, I'm gonna put him third behind Washington and Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean he has to be. This guy will have pulled off something amazing.
I heard Reagan's speech the other night. It sounded pretty good.
Right?
Yeah.
Reagan.
He's something. He was something
Which
else.
one?
He was something else.
I do
But
want to.
I'm right with you.
Which one?
I do want to say something about
The Russia related.
I
one.
do want to
Okay.
say something about Donald Trump. This is his election to win or lose. Okay.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is.
And it was the same way with Reagan. And people, my son, I was talking to him today. People younger just and don't remember Reagan that well. he put up with a lot of crap too. I mean, he was raked through the coals. He was hated by the left, just like Trump is. Now, I've never seen it to this degree.
They've gotten better.
You know,
They've
but you
turned it up.
but you got to
It's
understand.
okay.
But you got to understand one thing about Reagan is that he did not have Fox News. He did not have conservative talk radio. Rush Limbaugh didn't come along to '88.
Right.
Okay. He didn't have anything other than a radio show. So it was up to Ronald Reagan to bypass the media and get to us, okay, which he did a good job. When he left office, he had a 65% approval rate. Now, Ronald Reagan had a different style than Donald Trump. But it was Reagan's elections to win or lose, same way it's Trump's elections to win or lose. So
Reagan didn't also have to deal with Soros and unlimited funding.
well, I mean,
it's
I'm
it's
not.
unbelievable.
That's true.
I mean, there's a lot of factors that are not even at play.
Hey, the Coe brothers,
what?
the Republican Coe brothers out of Texas. I mean,
One of them died, didn't they? You talking about?
I think
Was it the Koch brothers?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of them
KOCH.
died not too long ago.
yeah. I mean, they fund both sides of conservative and progressive.
Right.
I mean, look, being in education, you have friends on both sides of the aisle. And one of the things that they have been really good about is keeping us separate. When I have gone in to really talk to my friends on the other side of the aisle, they know these staunch Republicans who are funding open borders. They're funding it. I mean, but
Oh, they won't open borders.
yeah, they do because they want the cheaper
The work.
labor. They want the cheaper labor.
Cheap labor.
But until we actually come together, and I said, to solve our problems in education, we're going to have to come together. We're not going to talk about Hillary. We're not going to talk about Trump. We're going to talk about the problems in education, even if it has to be a purple group. And I'm going to get some hate mail over that. I'll just put it with the rest of it.
But the only problem.
Well, I mean, we're on the board, or you're on the board. I'm not there yet, but you're on the board to serve all
People.
students.
I serve them all,
Yeah.
and I don't ask them who they are before I answer the phone or before I answer an
Doesn't
email.
matter what
I
side
get
of the
stuff
aisle or-
in the snail mail. I get emails. I mean, you just wouldn't believe. One of my friends who is a Democrat, she's wonderful. She's on the city school board. She said, Tammy, I really didn't think that you would do a good job on the school board. And I'm kind of looking at her like, what? And she said, but you've done a really good job. She said, you didn't come from the administration and you don't come from academia. And she said, but you've done a good job. She said, but why in the world are you supporting Donald Trump? And I said, I'm going to tell you. I said, I didn't at first. And I said, maybe he tweets too much. Maybe he's too boisterous. And, maybe he is some of those things.
I've grown to love those things, though.
Yeah.
I do too.
Because
Yeah.
that's his way of going around and getting the truth
Right,
out.
right.
And I said, look, Barack Obama, they said he was a wonderful father. I don't have anything that tells me that he wasn't. It was his policies
Right.
that hurt all people.
Absolutely.
It was the policies, regardless if he was a Democrat or a Republican. It was the policies.
He might be a
It
great
kills me with
family man.
all these things about his Trump's tweets. What does that got to do with anything?
Exactly.
It doesn't. It's just
all
it's
about
distracting. It's
they're-
distracting and
everybody.
deflecting.
It's all just junk. They're focusing on presidential etiquette.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is does that solve anything?
No.
That's all phony junk.
Yeah,
And
it's
everybody-
distract-
everybody
it's to
now
distract and
realizes
deflect.
that it's junk.
But
Yeah.
I'll say this about Trump. In the environment we live in, if he hadn't been like that, I don't think he'd be president.
No.
No.
If he had been a Mitt Romney or
No.
John McCain or
No.
whatever, there's no way he'd be president of the United States.
We would be speaking Chinese.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And that presidential etiquette you were talking about went out the window with Obama.
Absolutely.
It did.
But like you
First
talking about
president
him
I've
being
ever
a great family man, but what's he done to the families in general? I mean, by his policies.
The
you
other
know?
thing
And that was my whole point.
The other thing
Yeah.
about Trump is when you look at the tweets. Let's talk about the tweets. Everything is responsive to what people are saying.
Yeah.
He's not picking fights.
Right.
He's responding.
He's a
to something.
counterpuncher, and if he's
if
he
it's Rosie O'Donnell or
punches
whoever,
back, boy, you
he's
better
a
watch out.
He's counterpunching.
Yeah.
And usually 99% of the time it is counterpunching.
And
Yeah.
he ain't gonna
They
go
don't wanna
after you
factor that
unless
in.
you done something to make him mad. You know,
right.
I mean,
Right.
I try to be a little bit more like him and not be, reactive because then
Yeah.
it just kind of takes away from what you're doing, but golly, when you take, I mean, just here on the local level, I was telling y'all about some of the things that I'd gone through earlier this year. Just the school board representative, what I went through with the media and everything. I can't imagine what he goes through on a national level.
Oh, Lord.
And, he's going to have to be somewhat of a narcissist to be thick-skinned to take that. Because even I'm an only child. I don't hardly take no for an answer, and I'm tough. I'm a tough Southern girl. But I'm gonna tell you, when people start saying things about you that are not true, it's hard to take, and it's hard to take when I've given up money. I've given up, jobs to be in the position that I am, to be able to devote the time that I've done. He gave up his whole payroll. He gave up his whole, basically his whole family.
Well,
Right.
you both, I'm just thinking, from what you say, you both of you, meaning police and education system, you both knew what you got into,
Right.
Absolutely. And you knew it was going to be, there's a lot of tough situations out there.
Absolutely.
It is more toxic. The education system right now is more toxic than ever.
Oh, gosh.
I think
Well,
in Greg's opinion, you have so much from your political position of where you come
Yeah.
from in that environment of education. It's pretty toxic.
It is, and I'll tell you, because my son, his father lives here, but we never married, so he was essentially a single child, but we co-parented very well. I was bound and determined that he would not be a statistic. I was born and raised in Memphis, moved here in '96, and he's been a very good young man. We can choose not to be a statistic, but I'll tell you, one of my schools has a Fun Friday, and there were some things that I was not prepared to face when I became a school board member. I knew, the political things and things like that, but I'll tell you, Fun Fridays is we meet at Smyrna Elementary about 6:30, 6:45 in the morning.
Who was we?
Smyrna Elementary. Well, they invited me because I was a school board member, but typically they will have like a realtor group or a bunch of representatives from the police department.
Okay.
They'll just have a group of people.
Like a community mix.
Like the community, someone in the community. So we all meet at 6:30 in the morning. They've got music and balloons and all kinds of stuff going on. This was pre-COVID, of course.
Yeah, 'cause there's no school now. So
Right. We stood there
you'd be alone.
and high-fived or shook hands or hugged every single child that went through those doors. And I'm going to tell you, even as wealthy as Rutherford County is, and as wealthy as you think we are as a country, it broke my heart to see some of those children that you could visibly tell were not being taken care of.
Right.
That's what I was not prepared for.
Yep.
Because my son and I've always worked and made sure that he was taken care of, but we never did without. Thank God. God has been very faithful to us to be a good provider for us.
It's terrible.
As well as his dad. And it's, and people don't even know, we have an Atlas program in Rutherford County where we average 1,000 homeless students every year. Now, that could be that they're sleeping on somebody else's couch.
That's 2%. That's high.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. But the schools, people can talk about, they don't like what's going on in the schools, and there's a kind of government reach. I agree as a conservative with that, but who else is going to take care of the kids? Are you going to let that need go by? Should we be, look, I'm on a tangent now. Should we be supplying washing machines and dryers at our school? No, that should be something that happens at the home. But if the child is embarrassed to come to school with dirty clothes or will not come to school with dirty clothes, our teachers and principals are making sure that they have an opportunity to take care of that.
And when I meant toxicity in education, I didn't mean, I'm fine with them reaching in and providing. You have to do that. But I'm talking about more of concepts and what they're teaching.
Oh, absolutely. And I completely agree with that. I completely agree with that. That was one of the reasons.
A lot of factoring in on what you just said for the toxicity, because I think, the behavior,
Yeah.
And I know nobody can see me on here, but being a school resource officer, I see a lot of that on the inside because I'm physically there. So a lot of the behavioral issues, a lot of the issues that the teachers are having, being able to even instruct their classrooms that are being constantly interrupted by, and I want to talk to you about this at some point in time, Tammy, but the RTIB, and the B stands for behavior. And what they've done is basically handcuffed the administration, the teachers, the SROs from any kind of consequences for behavior issues.
It's all about lawsuits and money. And
You're right.
Yep.
And so there's so many times this kid gets before there's a call home. There's so many calls home before they can even get an in-school suspension, much less an out-of-school suspension. And these kids, it doesn't take them long to realize that there's no consequence
they can
for
walk
my
all
actions.
over you. Yep.
Yeah. So we're seeing an escalation. And I thought it was just my school this year, but I started asking other SROs, and then the teachers that I work with were asking other teachers across the nation who are going to similar type behavioral plans. And it's about, was it positive? Was it called
Positive reinforcement, probably.
Yeah.
And the thing is, what they don't understand at the federal level is where a lot of these are coming down from. Is it's just like a business. If you're federally regulated, just like Trump, when he deregulated our businesses, our industries, look how the market took off. And I have said since he came in, we need to deregulate our schools. And I'm not saying take those protections out for our speds and things like that.
No.
But our teachers are so regulated in what they have to do and what we can do. And we've got counters at the central office. That's one of the reasons we have such a large central office, is to make sure that we're in compliance. Yep. And the more rules and regulations that we have for school, the less money that goes actually for education. Yep. And that's why people don't understand.
Yeah. And
it's ironic because now with more broken families than ever, and you have this going on, and where they need it, and your hands are tied.
That's that even on these broken homes where there's no structure, no, like they're just lacking in so many different areas. When they come to school, that's their structured place.
Safe
they know
place.
what to expect.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a safe place. They know what to expect. They know when the bell rings, I got to go here. When I go here, I got to sit in the chair. I got to listen to the teacher. That's their structured zone. And for some of these kids, that's the best time of their day is at school.
Yep.
And it's sad watching these teachers having to stop instruction to deal with one child because they can't deal with them right then and there. Stop what they're doing, pull out a form, write the kid's name down, write what the kid did, get another student to run them up to the office with the referral for the administrators to look at it and go, yeah, we should probably take a little bit closer look at this. Go ahead and send them down here. I mean, so there's interruption after interruption. And I thought it was just my school, and come to find out with other SROs, it's countywide. And then other teachers outside of even Tennessee that are saying, oh no, we're having the same problems here. And it's like,
there's a book out that I suggest everyone read, and it's called Why Meadow Died. And she was one of the victims of the Parkland shooter. And it's sort of a post story on what happened at Parkland with all the policies and procedures, what the school board didn't do, what the sheriff's department didn't do. I mean, the sheriff's department absolutely had an MOU, a memo of understanding, with the schools that they would not arrest some of those people. And that young man had no business. I'm not a doctor. Don't play one on TV. But if you read this book and read everything that went through, he had no business being in mainstream. Now, I'm not for separating people out. I'm not.
He had no business. What?
He had no business being mainstreamed in our schools. The behaviors that he was expressing, he should have never been there. But
he wasn't even a student, was he?
Yes, he was. And the thing about it was he would act up in the public school, and then they would send him to the alternative school. And just like here in Middle Tennessee, a lot of our students get to that point when they go to the alternative school. And if they go beyond that, we really don't have a place to put them.
The problem, too, is elementary school kids. We don't really have a place for them. There's 2 schools that have behavioral classes. So and it's not my school. My school is not one of those. But if I have a problem child in my school, I have to wait till they act to a certain point where, it's beyond disruptive. And so far, I've seen 2 students at my school go through this process where it should have been a lot sooner. But one was so disruptive that every time administrators or SRO was called to the room, the entire classroom is seated outside in the hallway because that one student refused to leave.
Ridiculous.
So then we're forced to remove them so that the other kids can go back and learn. There's no place for this kid. So they get on these programs, and then the county will send us an educational assistant, which is basically, for babysitting this student.
A one-on-one.
Yeah, one-on-one.
A one-on-one.
So this EA every day would have to follow this student around. If she went to the bathroom, she had to go stand outside the bathroom. If she went to lunch, she went to lunch. While she's sitting in the classroom, there she is, because she was violent, she was disruptive. Students hit the teacher, threw things, knocked over chairs. Desk. We had to end a school year with her like that. She was only with us from February to the end of May. So we're with her. We start in August. Here's her EA. And it wasn't until October, mid to late October, before she got removed to go to one of the behavioral classes at the other school. And it was only because, now, I'm going to say this because this is a personal opinion, but some may disagree with me. She's a mixed girl. She assaulted, within 5 minutes, she assaulted me, the teacher, a student, one of the behavioral specialists at the school who's African-American, and her EA. So 5 people she assaulted within 5 minutes, and some of us multiple times. And you're thinking a little 10-year-old girl can't hurt? Oh, mule kick. But she assaulted the wrong person on this day, and this wasn't the first time she assaulted her. And it happened to be the African-American woman who was specialized in the behavioral. And she said, I don't get paid enough for this. She called up central office. She said, look, if this happens again, I am going to press charges. I've already talked to my SRO. I'm going to file charges on this 10-year-old. Something needs to happen. She needs to be out of the school and in a behavioral school. And then she threatened a lawsuit, and within 2 weeks that student
That's
was
what
removed.
it took.
That's what it took.
Yep.
It takes
Otherwise,
a lot. It takes a
oh my
lot.
gosh, act of Congress.
It takes a lot.
My wife. Go ahead.
Just from August to January or February this year, we had 28 teachers assaulted. Injured to the fact where they made an insurance claim.
It's ridiculous.
So there were probably more who just said, oh, it's okay. It wasn't until we started seeing our insurance rates go up that we were like, wait a minute, why? What is the deal going on? And it goes back to a lack of respect for authority.
It does.
And
Which starts at home.
yeah, which starts at home.
But it
And
isn't.
we've all been guilty of it. Say something about somebody on the TV, and our kids take it the wrong way, that they
Sure.
could say something flippant. But I think we need to, in my opinion, go back to setting those boundaries, because children thrive with those boundaries. They feel
Yes,
safe.
they do.
They feel
Absolutely.
loved. And that's why sometimes they act out, because some attention is better than none.
Right.
And one of my guilty pleasures, where I learned a lot of policy and how some of the police did, look, I don't have a big life, right? I'm not a party girl. I'm not downtown Nashville honky tonks. I'm home Friday and Saturday nights watching live PD. And
It's one of my favorite shows.
it's one of my favorite shows, and they've taken it off, and I'm just about to have palpitations over it, because I learned a lot of legal, a lot of procedures.
You learn a lot from watching those.
Sure
I
do.
learned
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of legal, because we have students that, girls especially, that suffer from anxiety, that use the CBD oil. And I've been known to use the CBD oil without the THC because I have neuropathy in my feet. It works, folks. I'm just telling you, it works. It worked for me. And to me, and now there's different states that have, if you just have oil in Texas, you're going to jail. And that was one of the things that I started researching about, because I knew that we had students that were using it here. And I wanted to make sure that our policy was such that it wasn't going to put them in jail. And it wasn't going to give them a record at their young age when they're trying to do something homeopathically or naturally versus taking pharmaceuticals.
Well, the problem with that too is a lot of these oils, even a minuscule amount of THC in there, they'll test positive for THC.
I've heard that also.
So that's the problem. If they could remove that entirely, it wouldn't be an issue. Or just go ahead and legalize it and let's be done with it.
Yeah. But that and how those gentlemen police in the community, they know the frequent flyers just like we do, but they're respectful to them. And I mean, it breaks my heart that they took it off, because every time they got crazy, I'd call my son, Eli, come down here. This is how you don't react. This is how you don't respond. This is how, it's a great lesson, because even though I've seen them chase people from across one side of Georgia to the other into another state and roll the cars and endanger everybody, and they get them out and go, what are you thinking? If you were a parent, you would be shaking them, but they're like, are you okay? Do we need to call an ambulance and everything? So does it do bad things happen? Yes. I'm not naive to say that. I was, like I said, born and raised in Memphis, but we've got to get back to respect and authority.
One more quick school story I got. I'll make it real quick. My wife was a one-on-one. So she went into a district fairly new, and they assigned this kid to her, and the kid had a lot of tremendous behavioral stuff. And he was overweight, and she was there for a couple of months, and he was really disruptive. Really just the whole class was terrified, where they were, standing like away from him and stuff, and within the classroom, it was just completely chaos. What they were doing, they were giving the kid food to shut him up.
Wow.
That's how and the kid was obese.
Yeah.
And that's how they were resolving the issue. My wife, she went to the principal, she went to the superintendent, because they weren't listening. Nobody was doing anything. Her blood pressure went skyrocketing, because and she's thin, she's in really good shape and everything, and she ended up leaving. She got moved over to another spot because it was just out of control. But this is what they were doing to solve the issue, giving the kid food.
Nice.
I want to go in a different direction so we can start heading toward wrapping up here. But I was doing some research on the Reconstruction last night, and I ran across something I wanted to cheer when I read this. On January 12th, 1865, General William Tecumseh Sherman, along with Secretary of War Edwin Stanton, met with 20 black pastors in a greenhouse in Savannah, Georgia. And these pastors some of them had come out of slavery. And anyway, this gave you a little peek into where Abraham Lincoln was going with his Reconstruction policy. I think if Abraham Lincoln had lived, America may even be a better place today, because I think he was the only one in this country could have brought about a successful Reconstruction. But anyway, Lincoln sent Stanton down to Savannah to meet with these pastors, and they were on a fact-finding tour. They wanted to find out from these pastors what the freedmen wanted at the end of the war. This was at the end of the war, when they were just gaining their freedom. And this pastor, his name was Pastor Garrison Frazier, and this guy, probably unlearned, didn't have hardly any education at all, came out of slavery, but he nailed in a few words, whether you're white, black, or whatever, what the essence of conservatism is, or the essence of what the Republican Party should stand for. And he said, first of all, put us on land, let us work it, and give us a chance to buy that land. He said, and then when we earn enough money, we can buy it, He said, then give us our rights. He said, once you give us our rights, protect those rights, and then leave us alone. Okay? And everybody can benefit from those words. This guy this was an unlearned former slave pastor, nailed what, to me, being a conservative is all about. And the only thing I would take issue on him was he said, give us our right. No, the government can't give you your rights. You already have those rights.
Right.
in his case, they were usurped by a tyrannical system. Okay, and you know, here's the thing. This is what I would like to see. We're at a crossroads, right? One thing that Trump has done that I really like, he has been able to communicate with a lot of black people, or reach them. Okay, the Republican Party has a golden opportunity right now. I would love to see them reconstruct this scene on a campaign commercial, okay, and play it over and over, okay. And you know, here's the thing. You know, if you look at black people, blacks traditionally are more pro-life than whites, okay. Blacks want to be wealthy. This is why they're attached to Donald Trump. One of the reasons they're attached to Donald Trump. They do not like same-sex marriage. That's one reason in California they were the ones that voted that proposition in, that banned same-sex marriage before the Supreme Court did their thing. Okay. They like school choice. I know you don't like it, but
Everybody's got an opinion.
But what I'm saying, blacks are in favor of school choice because they're tired of the crappy schools they're going to. They're very religious. Blacks are very religious. Blacks are for privatizing Social Security. One of the reasons is because they live a shorter lifespan. They want to give their money over to one of their kids or relatives or whatever. And they're very patriotic, okay? So this is the essence of what a conservative is, okay? And I think the only thing that attaches a black to the Democratic Party is over social justice. They believe what the Republican Party needs to do is teach. I don't care if they have to spend billions of dollars to do this, well, through campaign ads, whatever. Teach the black people in this country and white people the history of the Republican Party. The Republican Party has made some mistakes, like the Compromise of 1877 screwed them over. That was Republican had something to do with that. But ever since their founding in 1854, the Republicans they were the ones that voted in the 13th Amendment, that freedom. They were the ones that voted in the 14th Amendment, which gave them their civil rights. They were the ones that voted in the 15th Amendment, which gave them their voting rights. In 1954, it was the Republican Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Earl Warren, that gave them knocked down Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896, Supreme Court case, separate but equal, which in essence technically ended segregation. Okay, it took a while to get it implemented, but then you take the 1957-1960 Civil Rights Act. It took Republicans to get that passed because the Southern segregations were against it. You take 1964-65, they could not have done it without the Republican Party. Lyndon Johnson gets the lion's share of the credit for doing that, and I'll give him a lot of credit, because I'm going to tell you that bill, the 64 and 65 Civil Rights Act, would never have been passed without Lyndon Johnson, because he was ruthless enough to get that thing done, and being a Southerner, he had the clout with other Southerners to get that done. But even then, there were hardly any Southern Democrats that voted for it, and it was a coalition of Democrats and Northern Democrats and the entire Republican Party that got it passed. And the Republican Party got this bad rap in the 60s of, they were accused of appealing through Nixon's Southern strategy of trying to steal the white vote, racist vote, because they were upset over the passage of the Civil Rights Act. But that's not true. You know, the the blacks started going over the Democratic Party as early as 1936 with the policies of Franklin Roosevelt, the economic policies that affected the South and everything. They went over even more with the situation. I don't know if you ever heard of the Blue Bomb, but that pamphlet that was passed out after John Kennedy called Martin Luther King's wife Coretta and gave her comfort after Martin Luther King had been arrested and put in jail. So there were a series of things happened, but Nixon was a card-carrying member of the NAACP, a lifetime member, okay? He always preached for civil rights. What his Southern strategy was about, he was going for the border state that had voted for Eisenhower in the 50s. He wasn't going for the Deep South. Those states voted against him, you know. It wasn't until 1994 that Southern whites in any overwhelming numbers, by 1994 we had come a long way on as far as civil rights. That's when they actually voted for Republican congressmen and senators in 1994. Prior to that, they had been voting Democrat. You know, Tennessee started voting Republican a lot earlier than everybody else. But I'm trying to get across the fact that we have been wrongly linked with racism, when in actuality it was the Democrats who kept them enslaved. And here's the thing. There's always been a Democrat coalition.
You've got what about the Klan?
Well, the Klan, the reason it was founded was to keep Republicans out of the South.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they wanted to be the party of the white man, the Democratic Party. That's why it was founded, was to keep blacks from voting and to keep white Republicans from helping them to vote, okay? Now, you know, actually during Reconstruction, between 1865 and 1877, there was a lot of freedom for black people. You had black senators, you had black congressmen. You actually, there are pictures of whites and blacks commingling. I'm talking about Southerners. There was a lot of fellowship between whites and blacks and everything. It wasn't until the state governments, the former Confederate governments, took over and brought back another form of slavery in the sense of segregation. But the point I'm trying to get at, we've got to start the Republican Party. That they are it's kind of a biblical thing. I'm getting ready to say. I can't remember. You may remember, but there's in the Bible where the harvest is ripe. You know, I mean,
and the workers are few.
Yeah, I mean the harvest is ripe for picking. You know, and we've got to find a way to open black people's eyes to how they are being persecuted. Yep. Here's the link I see between the old Southern racist Democrat Party and what's going on today in the big cities, okay? There used to be a politician in South Carolina named, I think it was South Carolina, it was Pitchfork Ben Tillman, okay? He was one of the most racist guys you can ever, and then there was Cotton Ed Smith. There's Theodore Bilbo down in Mississippi. All these guys they were masters at playing on white people's fears about black people.
Corn pop. Corn pop.
Yeah, like Cotton Ed Smith. The reason they called him Cotton Ed was because when the cotton crop was good, he took credit for it. If it was bad, he blamed the black folks, okay? Or he went after the black folks. He race baited and stuff like that. What do they do today? They every time, Biden, they're going to put you in chains, the only reason they talk to the black people right today and they pander to them It's just like in the old South. George Wallace, give you an example. George Wallace was considered a moderate on race when he first ran for governor. I forget what year it was, but
And one of the things when they do that, it's just, to me, it rips that Band-Aid off again.
right.
And just opens
It
those,
just keep-
just
Right.
opens those wounds up again. And there, I mean, I don't know anybody, and my son and I were coming back from Memphis today, and I was, ask him just
Right.
point blank, do you think that we have racists in our family? I mean, we're, most of us are West Tennessee. I
Right.
grew up in an integrated school.
Right.
And he said, no, I mean, he said, Mom, all my best friends were black growing up, and they were.
Yeah.
And, still many of them are.
And that's what I'm saying. If they would just give us a freaking chance,
Right.
we could get this behind us,
Oh, absolutely.
But I
you
want to go ahead.
Well,
I'm
I was
sorry.
just going to say, it doesn't help that every time there's a crisis at hand, you have the media just harping and harping and harping. And
Never
harping.
let
They're
a
the
crisis
ones-
Wagging
go
the
to waste.
tail.
You're exactly
They're
right.
wagging
Yeah.
the, they wag the tail.
You're talking as if
Right.
you're talking about some people who are reasonable. What we're dealing with, Soros and all of that
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely.
They're on a mission from hell.
Yes,
I
they
mean,
are.
they are not going to stop.
Well, let me tell you
They are
this.
not gonna stop.
This whole, okay, George Floyd, God
Right.
rest his soul, okay? That was a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened,
Mhm.
right? Happened in Minnesota. We are having, there is a total difference between protest
Right.
and rioting.
And rioting,
okay?
yeah.
Protesters don't get arrested. They're
Right.
not doing anything
Right.
illegal.
Absolutely.
Rioters get
Right.
arrested because they're
Right.
breaking the law.
Right.
But I just recently learned that these same types of protests and riots are going on in major cities all over the world,
Oh, yeah.
not just here.
Right.
And
It's a concentrated effort.
it is.
Absolutely.
So
And think about the time when that fatality happened. How quick did they mobilize?
oh,
Right.
quick,
I said to Greg
Yeah.
the other day.
quick.
Was it within a day?
This.
What-
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
They've
You
been
don't do
planning
that
this
by
for
accident.
years.
Oh my God.
That's a plan.
It's
Even the
very
commercials
well
with
orchestrated.
COVID were like
Okay.
that.
That's a funded.
How are these people in London protesting George
Right.
Floyd? They
Right.
don't know who George Floyd is, and they're angry at their police. Do they have the same racial issues? They may. I don't
Yeah,
even know.
yeah.
There's a
If there's a racial issue in Europe right now, it's the Muslims that are persecuting the
right,
the
absolutely,
white Englishmen
and the
Yep.
non-Muslims.
and the non-Muslims.
But the same, I was reading another
Yeah.
and saw pictures. There was another protest in Portugal. Like, do they have race issues in
Right.
Portugal?
Right.
Someone is pulling. There's a puppet master.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
There's that
Oh, yeah.
wizard behind the curtain has orchestrated this whole thing. I was talking to a good friend of mine who lives in he's English. He's from England.
Yeah.
I was talking to him. I said, so I just learned you guys are having protests and
Right.
riots over there as well. He goes, well, they're just more protests. They're peaceful. And no sooner than I read that from him, I kid you not, within the hour, I'm seeing a pop-up post from the Daily Mail of a bicycle that got thrown at a mounted officer on the back of a horse, hit the horse, knocked the officer off, knocked her unconscious, and I'm like, peaceful
Yeah.
protest?
And that's what the
But they've had the really bad riots when
yeah.
the Muslims were
they
going
have.
through that. They've
Yeah.
already gone through that.
Well, Trump did a good thing the other day by declaring Antifa a terrorist organization, but now they need to go after Osama bin Soros.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I
That's
like
what
that.
they need
Right.
to do.
Soros.
Yep.
They got to follow. They're working it. They got to get the money trail.
All
Yeah.
right.
They got to
Yeah.
do that.
But
I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything like that, but George Soros is part of
Right.
that whole world plan, along with Bill
Open
Gates.
borders.
Right.
New World Order. They want this one world government. They want a
Right.
one world currency,
Right.
one world police.
right.
And everybody that's asking me about, now we have the defunding
Right.
of police departments.
Right.
That's insanity.
It is.
Yeah.
And
It is.
But it's
all
all
my
part of the
friends-
same package.
It
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
part of the package. And all my friends are asking, well, what are the citizens going to do? And I said, don't worry. there'll be a global police that'll be right in after
Oh yeah.
they
If you
get rid
caught
of the
it,
regular
you know,
police department.
So the defunding, within in Minneapolis is beginning to roll with it, from what I understand.
Yeah.
They're first.
But you know who jumped on board really,
New
really
York.
quick? If you noticed, it was universities beginning
yes.
to get rid of the campus police and all that stuff
yes.
and all that. Isn't it interesting that it comes back to universities, going back to like Columbia and stuff like
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Where they were infiltrated. They've got their whole thing going on. They passed the word
yes.
down, and they're the first ones to
Well,
jump on.
This
Oh,
is
yeah.
this is
UMass, they're
Huh?
another one.
Yep.
UMass, they're
I mean,
another
how
one.
They're
can they
they're
even-
right there.
how can they even
We need to do that.
Justify that when they've hidden for years the rapes and assaults
Oh, my gosh.
Exactly.
on the campuses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is-
and,
this
and
is
they
a-
still do.
That's
This
a
is
whole
a-
other topic.
This is
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Hey, we could be here all night.
This is a communist movement
Yep.
to
It is.
overwhelm the system
Yep.
to the point where people will, at some point, they will beg the government to come in and end the chaos.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what
Absolutely.
they're
I
going to
put
do.
in.
And Minneapolis, their city council. I want to read you real quick what they said, because they're questioning. Well, what are we going to do for law enforcement? How are we going to take care of the problems? And they actually hold on. Let me. This is a quote from them. Council members say that they are not certain what policing will look like once they're finished, and they caution plans that will take a long time to carry out.
Yeah.
So
You took the words right out of my mouth. I go before I came here. I Googled. I'm on Google and I do defunding. The police. So of course CNN pops up. So all right, I'm going to read it. I read it completely, and I'm not even exaggerating. Completely one-sided description of the whole thing. Nothing addressing what are you going to do about robbery and all the other activities. They're actually talking about social workers being carried.
yes,
Right. And
Social workers,
social
they can't,
workers gonna
they
go in
can't
on
take care of
their
the
own
caseload that they
their
have.
own caseloads.
Yeah,
right.
that sounds good.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the article was just, the thing was just from CNN. Just
mental
off the wall.
health workers,
Yep,
social
yep,
workers,
yep.
And education.
Right.
That's going to fix all
Right.
these crimes and criminals that are committing the crimes.
Yeah.
They're going to all
So
of a
they're going
sudden
to be trained.
They're going
They're
to
going to have experience. They're going to
Yes.
walk into a domestic dispute in a home, right?
no,
and
no.
They're going to solve that.
No, there won't be any domestic disputes because they're going to be educated.
We're going to be living in utopia.
Yeah, utopia. A
Well,
communist.
Happiness.
the bottom line here, and this is where we can close, is that ultimately this it goes back to Karl Marx. Karl Marx wanted to do away with the capitalist system. He always preached that capitalism would fall of its own weight. Okay, and we're seeing it come to fruition. I'll end on this by saying
But
that.
not by itself. It didn't do it on its own.
Oh, absolutely. It's called the Long March, But when I was growing up as a kid, we were taught that the red. I would rather
red.
be dead than red. Okay,
Right.
that's what we were taught, and our focus was on Moscow. Okay,
Oh, yeah.
they were the bad guy, the boogie guys.
Right.
Communism was a monolithic thing. Chinese communists, Russian communists, Cuban, they're all the same. Okay. But what we didn't realize, while we were focused on Russia, we didn't realize that the communists were coming out of West Germany.
Yeah.
When Hitler ran, and this is not anti-Semitic what I'm getting ready to say, but he hated Jews and he hated communists. Okay, he ran these Jewish communist professors out of Germany. Okay, and they came to the United States. Guess where they came? Columbia University.
Right.
They started spreading their poison. It went all over the United States. By the early '60s, it was pretty much in our colleges.
Oh yeah.
That was what fueled a lot of the anti-war movement. Okay, and the counterculture and all that. Okay, so that's when they got their foot really in the door. What you're seeing now is where our colleges are permeated by these communists.
yeah.
Okay, and no reflection on the education. But where do the secondary school teachers go to get educated? In these institutions of higher learning, and they bring their stuff down to the lower levels.
Exactly.
Okay? So,
Well, and those that develop and write and publish our curriculum, it's Pearson. They're not exactly American made, American owned. They're not.
yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, but I mean, but
Second.
that's basically what we're dealing with, and we've got to open our eyes and realize that we're in the fight of our life right now. In my view, we're one election away from possibly losing our freedom.
Oh, I
And I
Couldn't
know,
agree more.
I know a lot of people. Oh, that's been said for years and years and years. No,
No.
I think we're there.
because the picking is right for our country right now.
Right, right,
The state that we're in,
right.
it's ripe.
That's one of the
And they know
reasons
it.
I never agreed with some of our friends that wanted to have the Article 5 convention. You just can't trust anybody. You cannot trust anybody
Right.
to open up our Constitution and for it to be equitable for everyone.
Right.
Can't trust them. Can't trust them.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement on that. Well, I appreciate everybody being here. I think we've had a great discussion, and like I say, this is the kind of information that needs to get out to those. One of the purposes of this podcast is I like what Larry Elder says is that and I've told him this. I've heard a lot of liberals argue with me about something, and generally they will never come up to me with an argument that I haven't heard before.
Right.
But I can tell them stuff that they probably haven't heard. Okay, and that's
Same.
because far too many people in this country have not been properly educated.
You're right. Their eyes are closed. They're still asleep.
We need to have another show on that.
Well,
Yeah.
we can.
I mean, yeah.
But good night and pleasant dreams.